station where unknown forces strike the edge of ecology.
3 days and all this kind of stuff in Glastonbury. There's a leaflet for the next event coming up. Tickets will be on sale in January. This year we had Dr. Ian Rubenstein. Steinstein? Yeah, whatever. Still whatever, that's what I liked it. It's not anymore, I Rubenstein. And it was really barnstorming, and I think what you're going to get tonight is going to be equally valuable. Because, you know, as I mentioned earlier on, one of the problems we have is you get the divide, you get the alternative world, the academic world, the scientific world, the wacky world. And it's so important to have people that bridge that divide. And maybe completely unintentionally, Ian has bridged that divide, or found it bridging itself in his life, and to hear the story of how this happened, and to hear somebody openly finding a way to balance this, it is really encouraging and fantastic. So we've invited him here tonight, and we're really glad that you're here, Ian, and I'm going to hand you over. So a big hand please for Ian Rubenstein.
So this is my talk, and it's about my experience of training as a medium. So I'm going to be talking about a bit about me as a doctor, how and why I trained as a medium, and then I'm going to tell you about how I use mediumship in my work as a doctor. Because I use it in my surgery. So, if the NHS ever gets wind of this, they'll use it as a cost cutting. Keep on the account, you know what they're like. But seriously, so I work in Enfield, which is to the map of London, so it's North London. Anybody here heard of the Enfield poltergeist? Yeah. So these are my credentials. These are my weird credentials. So there's Eagle House Surgery where I work, and the Enfield poltergeist is about half a mile north. If we hung in there, it's really a stone's throw away from me. In fact, I look after many patients who were involved in the case. I've never met the girls who were involved, but actually the grandson of Bill, the poltergeist that came through, is actually my patient. There's a story there. If you want to read it, I recommend this book. A guy Ian Rubenstein wrote the definitive book. He did the research on it. So Eagle House Surgery is a busy practice in a multi-ethnic working class area. We have a lot of Turkish-speaking Kurds and Bangladeshis. We're very proud of our mosque. It's a busy London scene, and it's a comprehensive service. We do all the up-to-date stuff. We do minor operations. We have our nurses, and actually I'm fairly normal. Here's me at work. I got quite more interest, and I write medical software. I've been published in the British Medical Journal, and I was the 2014-15 Royal College of General Practitioners Clinical Innovation Fellow. And the work from that led to me working with Transforming Cancer Services team for London. So now London's using a system I developed for referring cancer patients to hospital. So it's all very worthy, all very normal. So how did it go from this to this? So this is here in the Mail on Sunday, and this is me in that august publication, Fake Fortune magazine. So how did that happen? This is the story. So really, you should have guessed something what was going to happen. This is me at the age of 17 with my friends at school, and that's me at the back, the nerdy looking one. I didn't have friends, I had experimental subjects. But one of the things we used to like to do, how you grew up in the 70s? You must remember the Ouija board, yeah? Yeah, we used to do that, it was very popular. So we used to all meet in my house. I grew up in Tottenham, old Victorian house, and we'd get the Scrabble letters out, and the one glass, and we'd do a Ouija board. And I have, instead of a candle, I have my butane canister Bunsen for my chemistry set. And it was all very atmospheric. So one evening, there were about 8 sweaty teenagers in this room, and we kept on getting a message: water, danger. Water, danger. Water in the light, danger. Kept saying, water in the light, danger. After all, we got bored. What is nothing. So we cleared the travel away. I said, I'll go and make some coffee. Now, it had been raining that evening. It was a warm summer evening. It was quite a hot night. The rain had been pelting us. We closed the window. And I went out into the kitchen and looked up at the goldfish bowl light in the kitchen. Blimey, it was half full of water. And what happened was, it was an old Victorian house. The bathroom was above the kitchen. The bathroom window had been left open. The rain had blown in, hit the wall, run down the wall, gone through the floor into the wiring, and as water does, it's found its way through the wiring and filled up the goldfish bowl. Now, no one did the goldfish bowl light. No one had left the room. And besides, we weren't stupid kids. If anybody had known that, they'd have called the alert. So, we actually got a true message through the Ouija board. That was pretty good. I mean, we were all shocked. But, if the CIA were to say, Ian, we're going to wipe your brain, all the psychic stuff happened to you, but give you one thing you're allowed to remember, what would that be? It would be this one. This is not my friend Felicity. I nicked her off the internet. But my friend Felicity looked like this. When we were 19, it was my first year at medical school. And the first and only long vacation we had, I was at my friend Nick's house. So I did medicine at Nottingham. My friend Nick did physics at Leicester. So we used to see each other quite a lot. And he had a girlfriend called Felicity. And she'd come down to stay with me in the summer holidays. And my sister was with me. So there were three of us aged 19, Nick, Felicity and myself, and my sister aged 15. And it was all very adolescent because although Felicity was going out with Nick, she had a crush on me, and my sister had a crush on me. So it's all this adolescent emotion going on. And that's important. I make a note of that because we're having a perfectly ordinary conversation with all these energetic undercurrents going. And all of a sudden, I was looking at Felicity, and I saw this. It was not quite what I saw. Actually, I saw a blonde-haired snow queen. Again, I think this off the internet. I'm just trying to give you an impression of what I saw. So I was speaking to this perfectly ordinary dark-haired woman, and all of a sudden, I saw a blonde-haired snow queen with blue eyes. Now, the most intriguing thing was that this figure hadn't fully formed. It had like very thick, distorted white lips covered with frosted lipstick, high cheekbones, blonde hair with a fringe, and piercing blue eyes. I mean, these aren't blue eyes, but the figure I saw had piercing blue eyes. Now, in summer '74, there wasn't, we didn't use the term download, but I got a download, a telepathic download, and it was this: stop, keep back, what we're doing is wrong. And you know what that meant? I'm just draining her energy and emotions. And it wasn't unkind, it was like a physical force with it. And the other message was, mark this, know there's more to life than meets the eye, one day you will understand. And at the precise instant, my sister, who was 15, and she saw our profiles, stood up at the top of her voice, started screaming at the top of her voice, my God, can you see those lips? She was terrified. I turned around to my sister and said, you've seen it too, and looked back, and Felicity was completely normal. What do you do with that? I mean, we both seen it. It was unbelievable. I mean, didn't know what to do. So, we, with the help of the Scooby-Doo class, I'll tell you what happened. So, we jumped from Nick's house into the car. We drove in my dad's car to my parents' house. We woke them up, and you can imagine what they said. Yes, please. So they take Nick and Felicity back home, and so we did. So the next day, obviously, I decided I was going to phone my friends. And my friend Steve, this is Steve's house in Tottenham, he said, well, I don't know what this is, but I have a neighbour who's a medium, and he lives next door to me. His name's Keith Hudson. Why don't we tell him? So we told Keith Hudson, and Keith Hudson came along. And Keith was a bit older than us, he was 27, tall, balding, gangling, strange-looking guy. And he said, oh, what you saw was a thing called transfiguration. What's that, Keith? I said. He said, well, it was a spirit guide. Spirit guide, yeah, they falling in front of her to protect her, presumably from my, I was draining her energy. And I thought, well, no, by that, it has to be a hallucination. On the other hand, my sister saw it. He said, that is not meant to be real. You know there's a real bind. Remember, first year of medical school, which was 1974. They'd only just finished landing on the moon. Well, theoretically landing. I was into science. I mean, there was nothing I could do with that. So what do you do with that? Well, you put it to one side and you hide it off and you just get on with it. So I got on with it. And nothing happened between 1974 and 2003. Well, I mean, life happened. I met my wife, got married, had babies, the normal stuff. Kids grew up, and life went on. And eventually I got older, as you can see here. I don't really recognise that guy there. So I became what you would call, by my patient, me a pillar to the community. And that was it really, yeah. So there I was, one day in surgery, July the 4th, 2003, 11:58. That's when I went to the Twilight Zone. And I know this because I have a record on my computer. This was the appointment for Keith Bishop. Let me talk about Keith Bishop. Every doctor should have a patient like Keith. And if you have a patient like Keith, you either run up and hug him or run away, because Keith will turn your life upside down. This guy turned my life upside down. So let me talk about Keith. Keith, when I first met him, I was 29, he was 24. His father upholstered the mastermind chair. He came from working class stock East End, and his dad got him a job at the BBC. He was in security. Keith was a boxer, so he got a security job. And Keith's a lovely guy. He used to do favours for all the VIPs that come along. If you're a security guy at the BBC, you have to be vetted by MI5. So he met a lot of very famous people. He'd do them favours, and eventually, I used to see Keith, because he felt like a fish out of water. And I did too. I come from a working class background, so we were quite similar. We both felt that we were in fields, above our station, you might say. So I used to spend a lot of time speaking to him at the end of surgeries, counselling him. Eventually, he left the BBC and he set up a PR firm called Media Services. Sort of B-grade people, really. Harry Hill, a few pastry sandals. He did all right. Max Clifford used to send him tidbits, used to do grasshopper, like he was like his underling. Now Max Clifford's in prison. He's doing very well. Keith never liked him. So, it was 11:50 at the end of the surgery, and I don't hang around. I like to go swimming, because I go and do my visits, but I always go for a swim at lunchtime, and it's a liquid lunch for me. Then I go back and do my afternoon surgery. So I don't like to hang around. And Keith was late. Keith's not a very good timekeeper. So I was sat behind my desk, and I thought, well, Keith's late. He's not going to turn up. I tried to get up. Someone made me sit down. This is strange. I tried to get up again. Someone made me sit down. Then the phone rang. And it was Keith's agent. And he said, Mr. Bishop's at Southbury Road Station, just 5 minutes from the surgery. Do you mind hanging around? So I said, yeah, I'm not going to hang around too long. So Keith came in, out of breath and panting. And then he has his blood pressure. And he always tells good stories, so I let him sort of calm down, because they've got to take some blood pressure in Russia. And he always tells a bit of celebrity gossip. And as he's talking, he suddenly looks at me, he says, I've got this man here, Doc. He says he knows you, he's the grandfather you never met. And he wants to tell you something. And this is odd because I've been thinking about my grandfather a lot. I never met him. This is my grandfather on Brighton Beach in 1919. He was, my mum was one of 5 children. And it was a very fractious, disputatious Jewish family. And people always falling out with everybody else. And I had actually fallen out with my parents, quite badly. I mean, I'd been rejected from the family. I was feeling very miserable. And I realised that I interviewed my cousins and my uncles, and I realised that actually the problem being this guy, he'd actually done very well. He's a baker in the East End, but unfortunately, he was very fond of gambling. So what he'd do is he'd take the money out of the till and ride on horses. So my grandmother, again, who I never met, had quite a bad life. And I realised the problem that was going on in my family was probably down to him. Because I'm into sort of counselling and family therapy. So I've been thinking about my grandfather a lot, even though I've never met him. And so I was intrigued enough to let Keith carry on, because there's no way Keith would know that I've been thinking about this guy. So he said, no, look, this is how it works, Doc. he's going to speak through me. It's not going to be quite through me. He's going to tell me what to say, and he's going to tell me what to say, and I'll say it, but anything he says will be him, not me. And I said, Keith, how come you tell me you listen to spirits? He said, yeah. I said, no, for 19 years, how come you didn't tell me? He said, well, that's not the sort of thing you tell your dog, you think you're mad. I'm thinking, yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking I'm going to perception this guy. And that's very difficult. It takes 3 hours, social workers, not going to get my swim there, okay? It's a pain in the arse. Anyway, so he started to talk. 20 minutes later, my jaw was on the floor. He told me everything that was going on. It was stunning. And he sort of shifted gear and he came and said, was that all right, Doc? I said, Keith, that's marvellous. How do you know that? He said, it was not me. In fact, he said, William tells me you should be doing this. I said, who's William? Oh, he used to be my boss at the BBC. Well, you know, it became my spirit guide. I'm thinking, woo, yeah, really? Why not, you know? In fact, William says, you're like a man on the edge of a cliff. He says, don't be afraid. You should be listening to spirit. You should be doing this. Don't be afraid to take a leap of faith off this cliff. They'll catch you. Who? The spirits. Really? Yeah, that's my room. Interesting. If we look at the man on the edge of the cliff, who's familiar with the major arcana of the tarot? Yeah. If we look at the Fool is the man on the edge of the cliff. And if we look at the esoteric significance of the Fool, it's the spiritual social experience that starts a spiritual journey. So I started my spiritual journey. I didn't know it. The question is, was I a wise fool or was it a fool's errand? Well, we'll find out. Things happened fairly quickly after that. So everybody likes to tell you their dreams. I'm going to tell you my dream. So it started with a really weird dream, very intense. I found myself in my dream sitting at my Auntie Lily's table. My Auntie Lily used to have lovely dinner parties. And in my dream was Auntie Lily's big white tablecloth, and it was opposite my cousin Carol, who's a psychotherapist, a Jungian psychotherapist, very significant deal. And she was trying in the dream to get me to do a chest X-ray on with her patients. In the dream, I was trying to say, no, Carol, I can't do a chest X-ray on with patients, on my patients. And then all of a sudden, I heard myself saying, and besides, I'm not psychic, and I can't see auras. And then all of a sudden, to my left, in my dream, I had a Cockney voice say, of course you are, boss. I look around, there's a little short, stop Indian guy, not red Indian, but an Indian from India, chubby guy, with a flat cap that you see sort of in Yorkshire with a whip hair. And above him was a war light. He said, I'll show you. And with that, he turned and flipped the war light on. And these amazing blue lights, like gem-like shafts of blue light came out. And he said, what do you do with all that blue? And in my dream, I said, as if I already always know, I give it to people. And I woke up crying. And I woke my wife up. I said, I think I'm going mad. And she said, you've always been a bit crazy, but don't worry, I still love you. So I wasn't on my own. The next thing that happened was, this was the GCSE results are on the, I think the third Thursday in August, aren't they? Yeah, so this was the third Thursday in August, soon after that. So it was my son's GCSE results. And the idea was that I had taken the afternoon, I was going to go home, and I was going to be at home for Josh to get his GCSE results. So, we have to do home visits. I thought I'd go into the surgery, look at the visit book, take the visit before surgery so I can get my home, so that I can swim and see what Josh got. Took the one visit in the book, and it was within walking distance. So I threw my car keys on the desk, and as I was in my car, and as I left my room, I felt a blow to the back of my head, and I heard a voice saying, pick up your car keys, or they get stolen. And I thought, that's I was in a rush to just walk out. In my rush, I went to the wrong house, eventually got to the right house, and got back to the surgery with seconds to spare for my surgery to start, and only to find my reception there and say, Ian, you got blue Corsa? I said, yeah. She said, well, we just chased 2 boys out there. We think they run off got your key. And I said, I knew that was going to happen. So she said, well, why really did you leave your car keys there? I said, no. So what happened was, someone had gone into my surgery. Thank God they just lifted the car key and left the surgery keys. They got into the car park, pressed the remote, seen which lights flash. Got into the car, but thank God, it was an automatic, and they got stymied by the automatic. Meanwhile, lady across the road from the flat saw what was going on, phoned the practice manager, she chased them off. But they run off with my car, with the car keys, and I had drugs in the car, so we didn't know what had been stolen. So what do you do? Well, I phoned my wife as she walks there, got in and they hit my phone. Luckily I hadn't taken the prescription out of the drugs. But I had to phone my insurance company to get the locks changed. In order to do that, you have to have a crime reference number. You get a crime reference number by telling the police. So, I phoned the police station, which is just across. Sorry, this is one of the 10 police stations. They brought it down now. You can't actually go to the police station. It's on some sort of training estate. But this was when the police station was there, just across the road. Not a very nice place. I tried to phone, no answer. And in my police myself, she said, lucky no one being shot then. She had all the time, please. So in the end, I was actually really upset. So I actually left my waiting room, said to the patient, I'm sorry, I've got to go to the police station. Go across to the police station. And the last time I'd been there, it'd been a very nasty place. A lot of tall men with sort of truncheons and things. Go there, and it's completely transformed. The doors open. On the wall were drawings, like spirit drawings of Christmas and little Buddhas and Sikh and the Om symbol. And there were 3 little Buddhas on the counter. It's very odd. And there was a guy in front of the counter, it was one of my patients, big bruiser. So I thought there was a kid behind him. He turned around and saw me and said, oh, hello, Doc. What do you think these bruises? Strict off. So I showed him all these bruises in a fight. I wanted to look at his bruises. I was thinking, oh, okay, fine. I had to get my crime reference on that. He moved on. It was my turn. And set back for the counter was a desk. There was a guy in a Metropolitan Police civilian uniform and a secretary. And they were looking at the computer. And time was 9. I was thinking, I've got to get back to my surgery. And they looked at me and he looked at me and said, sorry sir, the computer's very slow. He looked at me and he looked at me. I felt myself slowing down. Eventually, he said, okay, I've got it running. What's your date of birth? I gave him my date of birth. And he said, oh, you're a Leo like me. And I said, are you into this new age stuff? He said, yeah. He said, actually, I'm doing a degree in spirituality. I'm a psychiatric nurse at Chasetown Hospital. I'm just here temporarily. And I said, oh, well, you're interested? No. I knew my car was going to get stolen. I heard a voice. He said, we were meant to meet. And with that, he took me out of his drawer some Native American cards. He said, I'll give you a reading. Oh, yeah, research station. He wants to give me a reading. So he knows now at the time I've been writing this software project for 9 years. I was going to be the next Bill Gates. Yeah. So he said, look, think of a question, and the cards will answer it. So, okay, so I said, will my software be successful? And took the card, he looked at the little book and said, the world is not yet ready. Too right. Can I have my reference number now? Certainly, sir. Yes. I walked back, and I left the police station. I thought, if I go back in there, I don't need to be there. I think I was in an alternate universe. So I go back to the surgery, and I start telling this story to the receptionist. They all start going, you're in the twilight zone. It certainly was. That weekend, we had a party, a family party in Surrey, St. Kent. And it was a lovely house. Loads of second and third cousins, I didn't even know. First person I met was a woman who was an occupational therapist. And she started telling me about the fact that she grew up in a haunted house with a poltergeist. And I was getting very spooked by them because getting them running into this stuff. So I said to my wife, well, you speak to her. And I can't deal with this anymore. So I go into the kitchen, get a glass of wine, and go into the little garden, it's a lovely house. And as I go into the little garden, there's a swing bench. My cousin Rose is on it, sitting next to this rather podgy man. And as I walked into the garden, she said, I could hear her speaking to him. She said, I used to be a spiritual leader until the kids were born and I had to give it up. So I said to Rose, Rose, what's happening? I keep on bumping into this. She said, well, they obviously want to work with you. I said, no, she's a spirit. Spirits? She said, yeah. What do you mean? She said, well, there may be doctors and nurses, and when they die, they go to the other side, and they want to carry on working. Maybe they've chosen you. And I said, yeah, right. Things like this happen all the time. Too few to mention. And I started telling my patients, well actually, because I know my patient for a long time, this is Dave Godfrey. Let's tell you about Dave. He's a science teacher. Well, he was a science teacher with a degree in biochemistry. Dave's a shamanic healer. Dave's done his time in the Sweat Lodge. Thanks to him, the sun rises every week. He beats the drums at the winter solstice at Stonehenge. He's a lovely guy. And he's a very sensible guy. I started saying, what's this about, Dave? And he said, well, you obviously have to get a hand on this here, because if you don't, it'll drive you mad. He said, join a circle. I said, what are those? Well, they're spiritualist churches. He said, no way I made a spiritualist church. My wife's Hindu, I'm a non-practicing Jew, we don't go to anything called a church. She said, well, Spirit wants to work with you, you'll be shown the way. The next day, my wife's looking at the Enfield Independent, a local paper, and she happened to notice a little box advert from Beacon Light Spiritualist Church. Keith Hudson, the guy who I met 30 years before when first his face had changed, and my wife had never met him but heard the story endlessly. She said, well, Keith Hudson's giving a demonstration of clairvoyance at the Spiritualist Church. Why don't you go? I said, I'm not going. I don't go to church. She said, well, we ought to go. I said, I'm not going. She said, well, we ought to go. I said, I'm not going. She said, we must go. I said, all right. Okay. So we went. Dragging along. So I sat at the back. And I look like I do now. Remember the pictures of me when I was young? I actually had a beard on Keith. I mean, there's no way you paint me the same person, would you? When I met Keith, the very first time I was 19, he looked at me and said, you've got a lot of knowledge around you, and you don't know you have, but we'll wonder. I thought, that's easy, I'm a medical student, he can say that. So we're in the Spiritualist Church, and I'm right at the back, and he's giving everybody messages. He says, sir, to me, you have lots of knowledge around you, don't know that you know, but you will one day very soon, and they told me you're going to write a book about it. I thought, I bet he says that to everybody, actually he doesn't. And at the end of the service, the president of the church said, well, Keith Hudson hasn't got a car, do you want him to lift home? I said, yeah, I'll give him a lift home, but only if he comes back to my house for a cup of tea first. And I ran out to sit just to say hello, Keith, because he didn't recognise me. He went back a bit, because you do get some pop people. He said, Keith, it's Ian. He said, Ian the doctor. He said, yes, I was talking about you the other day. So he came back to my house, and we caught up together, and I took him back to Walthamstow where he lives, and he said, look, I serve Vestry Road Spiritualist Church. And he said, I run the largest open circle in North London, where we do psychic awareness and training mediums. You don't have to be a spiritualist. I just said, why don't you try it? And as it was Keith, I thought, what I've got to do. So in February 2004, I started training as a medium. So, let me tell you how I train as a medium. Anybody here sat in a circle? A few of you. So, okay, well, I'm preaching, this is preachers and converters, I see. But for those of you who haven't, let me just run you through what circle is. So, we'll have opening prayer where we open up the spirit. We then do guided meditation, we give messages, and we close down. I'll talk you through this. So, opening prayer is like grace before meals. And the process of opening up uses the Ayurvedic concepts of the chakra system. So the idea is we all have these psychic centres, 7 of them, 7 major ones, which are along the spine. And the idea is you draw a light up, you make contact with the earth. This is all using your imagination. You imagine light coming up from the earth. As it comes up, it opens up each chakra, which each has a different colour, the colours of the rainbow in turn. So it rises up here, you finally open your crown chakra, you imagine light going up to heaven, and then light coming down from heaven. This is a way of connecting it to receive inspiration from the Spirit of God. And then, after we open up, we do a guided meditation. Now, there are many ways of doing meditating. I mean, there's Zen meditation, there's headspace meditation, but the meditation that spiritualists use when they're training mediums is called going on a journey. So the idea is that you're training your imagination. So now, we used to imagine, we're calling our imagination as just nonsense. It's just fancy, it means nothing. But spiritualists use imagination as an imaging, as an organ. It's an organ to receive inspiration from spirit. So we're using images, our imagination. And we stimulate this by imagining we're going on a journey. So people would imagine that we're going up through natural landscapes, very fond of medieval banquets and medieval jousts and fairs. And then you suddenly throw in, what's the colour of the jerkin that person's wearing? He catches you. You have to be looking at the scene. Beautiful landscapes. And after we've gone on the journey, we would then go to what I consider what we ought to be the important you're giving messages from spirit, through the spirit. So how does one do that? It's very difficult. I found this really difficult. It's less difficult now. As a doctor, you don't say the first thing that comes into your head. Anybody who's in a scientific or professional discipline, you watch what you say, you think before you speak. That's not what you do with mediumship. You have to hook on to that first fleeting thought, be aware of it, and you have to, it's a bit like angling. You hook your fish, you let it run, see where it runs to, and you pay attention to it. But you don't try and analyse it. You will analyse it in the end, but you have to catch those fleeting thoughts you normally dismiss. And then you must not be afraid to give it out. Now that means, don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself. You may say something that sounds foolish to you, but it's actually meaningful to somebody else. So you've got the image, you've got some ideas in your head. The question is, who are they for? It's called map reading. How do you know who to give the message to? Now this is very fortuitous. At the time, Keith was using the number technique. This had been developed by a medium called Michael Raven. And it's actually effectively a single blind trial. Let me explain what happens. So the idea is you wouldn't give a message to a person, you give a message to a number. Now Keith said, so Keith would look at the circle and he'd start to say, you're number one, but he wouldn't tell you you're number one. He'd either go anti-clockwise or clockwise until he reaches the last person. And there's 26 people in the circle, and sometimes we have 26 people. He picked someone to be number one, and either go clockwise or anti-clockwise, and everyone would have a number. But he wouldn't tell you when he started, he wouldn't tell you your number until the end. And the idea would be that you have to give a message to a number. At the end, he'd crack the code and tell you who the message was for. So that was quite scientific. I could buy that, because if you don't know who you give a message to, and they eventually take it, that's pretty good. The question is, how would you know who to give a message to? So I had a few techniques. The first technique I used was imagining that I was watching a film. You know, the old-fashioned films, you have a countdown. And the very first one I did is number 4. I saw this chap. And the message was for number 4. It was, tell them to check the holiday arrangements. So at the end of this, so what happened was, I had these images in my mind, everybody else would have images in their mind, the numbers. And we'd be in the dark, and Keith would have Harry Potter, he made his pen, straight out the straight. And he said, Keith, message for number 4. And he said, what is that? And he's like, check the holiday arrangements. And he's like, the market. Right, Keith, message number 6. And he'd be writing it down. And at the end he'd say, well, your number, and he'd go through all the messages. When he cracked the code, number 4 turned out to be Jenny. And I just described the man. She's like, this man called George, he always comes through. But I don't know what the holiday arrangements are. So that was very good. The next week, when she came back, she realised this was the early days of the internet booking holidays. She booked a holiday on the internet, but hadn't paid it correctly. So, in fact, she would have missed the holiday had she not checked it. So that was pretty good. I was pleased with that. But I still didn't know how I'd done it. Pretty soon, that got a bit boring, so I tried another one. Imagine a whiteboard for the presentation given medical talks, and I imagine there'd be a number in the top left-hand corner, and I try and imagine if there was something drawn on the whiteboard. One day I saw something like it's a jokey cartoon of a miner. In fact, the miner was pointing to some holes in the ground, and that was for number, I think, number 11. When the code was cracked, Joe was number 11, and he said, oh, that's good, Doc, my patio's just fallen into there and a big hole in there. Well, that's pretty good. How's that happen? Didn't know that's not going to happen. So I really to get intrigued. It got me because there's obviously more going on than just people putting stuff out thin air and guessing. I mean, I felt I was guessing, but I was getting results. Then one day we did direct clairvoyance. So a woman had come in the first time named Joan, and she was sitting in a circle, and Mary next to me had seen, looked at, said to Joan, I can see a light behind you. And funny enough, I'd seen this behind her as well. Again, it's sort of nothing in my mind, a couple of light behind her. So I said, I know, she said, I've seen that too. She said, well, give it out. So again, I said, oh, I can see some light behind you. As I said, it dried up. So Keith said, well, go and ask them, ask the guides, ask for more information. And at the end of the circle, I went up to her and said, I've got more information. I've got this waterfall, and I could see this woman standing in the waterfall, and she looked like her. She's very similar to you, but she was a lot calmer. And I think you looked after her when she died. And I said, can you take her? She said, yes, she's my twin sister. She looked like me. And she was a lot calmer than me. I said, what's the waterfall? She said, well, before she died, we took her to Aysgarth Falls in Wiltshire. It's her favourite place. And she took a lot of comfort from that. In fact, she said, well, thank you. And she didn't tell her again. She got the message. That was very helpful. So I began to realise that this could be quite therapeutic. Okay, well, after giving messages, we then do a closing down prayer, just to close the chapters and do verse, and then ask for some protection. That's fine. Anybody know who this is? Yeah, okay, well, when you start studying the scriptures, inevitably you deal with guides. This is a big problem there. This is Cyril Birch. Do you remember Cyril Birch? Cyril Birch, very famous guy. He was a spirit guide of Maurice Barbanel, who was the former editor of Psychic News. I had a real problem with guides. Look, between you and me, I could cope with the idea of people trying to give messages just about, as long as he didn't do my work. But scary guys, looking over your shoulder, can I see you when you go to the toilet? This is a bit weird. And for some reason, I just didn't. It didn't sit raining me in. So really? So one day we're doing meditation. Because the spirit is always demanding proof. You have to prove your guides are real. So apparently we all have a monk. Did you know that? No, the spirit can be very dogmatic. We had a medium, another kid, not Keith, he said, we've all got a monk. And one of the women said, oh, I've got a nun, Keith. Well, you can't have a nun. He said, monk. Oh, but Keith, I've got a nun. No, I'm not having it. All right. But apparently you've got a monk, right? Yeah? This is my monk. This is my monk. It's better than your monk. Mine's the better. It's my monk's the Nestle. Funnily enough, I'd met my monk before we'd been told we had a monk. We'd done a visualization, and I found myself on a journey sitting on a white bench outside a white monastery, a hot climate, opposite this guy who looked like the Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe. You know that guy? You know from 40 and TV? And I said, who are you? He said, I'm a spirit guide, Nestor. I said, why are you Nestor? He said, well, I was a Nestorian monk. And you were, sort of, he said, I was the abbot of the monastery, and you were the administrator of the monastery. You were a fussy little monk. We called you little brother. He said, you were a fussy little monk, you were the administrator. And the reason why you've come being reincarnated in this life is because of all the office equipment you've got in the 20th and 21st century. And I'm thinking, really? And I've always had a fascination for office equipment. I really thought, is this a reason for coming back to this day of scholars just because you like office equipment? I do like office equipment. He said, you'd have killed for the office equipment in the 9th century. Yeah, you loved it. So, I'd already met Nestor. And this is a Nestorian monastery. Nestorianism has died out, but it was around Syria. He claims that we were together in 9th century Syria. Go figure. I don't know. So, here's the proof. So here's the question for you. What has a 9th century Nestorian monk got to do with my old secondary school in Tottenham, my old library, and boots in Enfield? Any idea? You don't know? Okay, well, why not? I'll tell you. There's a story. This is how Nestor proved that there's something odd going on, even if he's not as real as you or me. So, this is my school in Tottenham. It's a very rough area. I was the last of the Bramwell. It became a secondary, comprehensive school in a sinking state. The year I went to medical school, the teacher got knifed. So even when I was, in order to get out being beaten up in the playground, I became a librarian. So I could do my homework and get all books. I was a very sort of studious kid. And one of the prefects there was called Lyndon Lewington. He was like basically a larger, fatter, older version of me. He was a sixth former. And he used to be very sarcastic. He used to twist my ear and call me the child. It was a big impression on me. And he left when I went into the second form. And when I was a sixth former, I got a Saturday job at Muswell Library. And I was looking at medical school places. And I I chose Manchester and the Welsh National School of Medicine. And for one day, I was transferred to a green library. And on that one day, Lyndon was doing a placement there as a librarian. And he'd just come down from doing a neurosciences degree. And he was asking me, what do you want to do at university? So I said, well, I want to do nursing. He said, have you looked at Nottingham? And I had looked at Nottingham, but I hadn't really pressed the prospectus. It was new medical school, and I just started it. And he actually drove me home in his car. And I remember him very clearly, as I got out of the car, he leaned over and said, Ian, make sure you look at the Nottingham prospectus, you should go there. And I looked at it, and actually ended up going there, because he was right, to the prospectus. And I met my wife there. So he actually changed my life. So, in the 90s, I was at another local library, Bushel Park Library, getting some books with my wife and my two little boys there. And there was this rather portly, grey-haired gentleman there, with a younger wife and two little boys. And I said to my wife, that's Lyndon. Who's Lyndon? She said, he's the guy who brought us together. So you don't know, but he told us to Nottingham. So I'm going to go up to him and say, and introduce myself. So I went up to Lyndon in the library and said, you're Lyndon Lyndon. He sort of like, he said, yes. I said, I'm Ian Rubenstein. You suggested my ear and called me the child. You told me to go to Nottingham, so I did. I'm now a doctor. These are my wife and children. Thank you, Lyndon. And he went white. So he said, my God, Ian. He said, because after I told you to go to medical school, I went to medical school. I'm now a consultant at Hammersmith in cardiology, and this is my wife and children. And it turns out his wife was the opposite up the road from my wife. And we just looked at each other, and the librarian said, I never heard of you guys in my life. Could you stop it? This is a library. Why am I telling you this? Okay, so I could buy a pair of sunglasses for minutes in Enfield Town. And I'm choosing a book in the library. Do you get the thing? Library, library, library. And all of a sudden I hear my guy, Nestor, in my head. I'm hearing voices in my head. I'm a doctor, I'm hearing voices in my head saying, put the books down then and go into minutes and get the sunglasses you want. I said, you're not real. Trust me, go with it. All right, put the books down, I go into minutes, get the sunglasses, and I go into Boots in Enfield. And I thought, what do I do now? And there in front of me, Lyndon and his wife Kay, looking at me. And I said, Lyndon, Ian. Lyndon, what are you doing here? He said, I'm buying stuff from Boots. What are you doing here? I said, my spirit guide told me to come here, and just to prove that he's real. And Lyndon looked at Kay, and Kay looked at Lyndon, and Kay said, Lyndon. I realised it's getting a bit sweet. I said, nice to meet you, Lyndon. I turned my head and went out. That's how Nestor proved that he was real. It was really, it is a guess, I don't know. I have another guy. Who's this guy? Derek O'Gorman. Yes, most haunted. Actually, the bishop knows Derek. He's a bit histrionic at times. He's very, very psychic. He's actually very good. He hands up it, doesn't he? Anyway, do anybody know Derek O'Gorman's guy? Sam? I must have thought I got there. I fancy got there. Because I'm in my surgery one day, and I have this behind me. I sense this guy behind me, tall African sort of warrior person. So I said, well, who are you? And he said, I'm a composer. So I'm in front of my computer, so I can composer. I get KOSA, I get XHOSA. They've heard of the Xhosa tribe. It's about Xhosa. So Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, then we call them Xhosa. It's actually a Xhosa. That's actually this click tone. So well, is that in trouble in your case? Just call me Xhosa. So this is a 19th century Xhosa warrior from South Africa. He actually said that we were on a boat together. A ship off the East Cape in a previous life. Anyway, he shows himself, he shows me these beads around his ankle. It's very significant for him. So, he said, I'm your clairvoyant guide. So his job is to bring in spirits and help me. And I don't know what to make of this. So one day, I'm in circle. I've had a long time. My father-in-law just died. I had a long time at work. I was absolutely knackered. I remember saying to him, I actually said, look, I'm not going to do this anymore. If you're real, you do this. I just let, for the first time in my life, I just let go. And with that, I saw this double silhouette come into the circle. And it resolved into two little people, a man and a woman. And in my head, the man says that his name is Fred, and this is his wife Elizabeth. And he showed me these tools. And I said, well, who are you for? He said, I'm for that guy over there. He's a new guy called Dave. I said, what's the message? He said, he's lost something. Tell him that he keeps on looking and find it. So I go to Dave and said, describe this. He said, okay. Dave didn't look very enthusiastic, and I thought that was a really crappy message. So at the end of the circle, I went up to Dave. I said, what do you make a message? He said, I said, okay. He said, I said, well, who was that? He said, well, it was my grandfather, Fred. That was my grandmother, Elizabeth. I said, what were the tools? He said, well, he was a bookbinder. They were the tools he used to use in bookbinding. He used to sort of put gold leaf on the leather. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, what have you lost? He said, I lost the keys to the factory. I'm confident. I said, what do you know? He said, yeah, that's what you do, isn't it? Now, he the first time he'd ever been to the spiritual church, he just thought that's what we did. I thought it was amazing. He obviously thought, oh, that, just what spirits do. So, again, oops, I was wrong one. So, proof. What's the proof that the coast is real? So, what has DC World in Enfield and the lovely actually Jodie got to do with the coast of Warrior from 19th century Africa? I'll tell you. So, anybody go to DC World? It's very cool. Yeah, there's like one person to check out. It's a queue for hours. So I need to get a new inkjet print for my cartridge. And I've got to be in surgery 5 minutes. And I know that I'm going to be queuing for hours. And Coza's in the back of my car saying, go into PC World and get yourself an inkjet printer. And there's no way I'm going to get an inkjet printer this much. I'll be there for hours. So no, trust me, go in there. So I go in there. There's one woman about checkout. She's my patient, Pam. And the inkjet printer at the car showed me, she's right by the checkout. I said, Pam, I need that. She said, sure, Doc. I'll give it to you 20% staff discount. I'm in there in 2 minutes. And I hear him chuckling in the back seat. I still don't buy it. This is a VHS cartridge. So this is sat on top of our VHS cassette recorder for months. I recorded a film long before I got into spiritualism. It sat there. And it was Lara Croft and the Cradle of Life. In fact, my son Paul had recorded it. We hadn't watched it. Everyone had gone to bed. I thought I'd watch it. And I was thinking about causal. I mean, really, this is, to be a doctor and interacting with spirit guides and voices in your head is really, really trying myself to be not so this. So I thought, okay, forget this, let's watch the film. So I'm watching the film, quite like Angelina Jolie. The film's got kids sit on, and halfway through I got a bit bored, and I started to sort of think about colours, and all of a sudden, on the film, Angelina Jolie and Lara Croft picks up the phone and says, tell Koza to meet me north of this village for off to Kilimanjaro. What? Pause, freeze, rewind. I'm going schizophrenic. I'm getting messages through my TV. No. Tell Koza to meet me north of this village for off to Kilimanjaro. That really got my attention. So the next part of the film is Lara Croft as going across the plains of Kilimanjaro with an eye, Koza, fighting off evil spirits known as. How does that work? So the next day I went into my circle and said, look, how does this work? How could that happen? Paul would recall that program of spiritualism. The things would have to come together. Angela and Jane would have to get the part, someone would have to write the script, Paul would have to record it, then I have to watch it at the very moment just to prove that he's real. How does that work? And they said, then well, that's what they can do. So that's what the 19th century Coast of Warrior has to do with Peterborough and Enfield, and then lovely Angelina Jolie. I don't really understand that. But I think I take that as proof there's something up. Though how that works with reality, I don't know. So that's more or less how I got into it. Everything was fine whilst it was in the circle. And I thought I could keep it there. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it started to bleed through into my professional life. So the first time it happened was the end of the circle. One of the mediums, Mary was again, she came up to me and said, "Who's that German officer in Second World War uniform? He's tall, thin, blonde-haired guy, very impatient, tell me what he's talking about here. Is he a relative of yours?" I said, "Well, look, bearing in mind that I'm Jewish and half my family perished in a concentration camp, I hardly think that I had a German officer attached to me." But she said, "Well, he's coming to live with you." So I thought about it. Well, I've got a cousin Lottie, she was on the kids' transport, but I couldn't place it. Then I suddenly remembered I had a patient called Ellie Richardson. Ellie was German. She'd been in the bombing of Hamburg. She'd actually, at the end of the war, married Tony, who was in the British occupying forces in Germany, and she'd come over and settled in the UK. And I knew Ellie very well. I looked after Tony with his spinal illness, and Ellie had now developed respiratory problems. I used to see her very often, she was a lovely lady. I wanted it was for her. But it was like a cold winter's night, and I wasn't going to go around and knock on the door at 9 o'clock and say, "By the way, Ellie, I've got this German spirit for you, can you take it?" But funnily enough, she was down by 8:30 o'clock the next day. And I looked at her name on the screen and said, "I wish I knew what this guy's name was." And I heard in my head, "Karl-Heinz." And so she came into my room. I didn't know what to say. So I said, "Ellie, I met a medium last night." She gave me a funny message. She said, "Oh yeah, I'm into mediums." She said, "Since Tony died, he's seen amazing, number 21. She gives me lovely messages." I said, "Oh, right. Well, I wondered if you could take this gentleman." I said, describe. She said, "That sounds like my boyfriend, Karl-Heinz. He was in the Panzer Regiment in the war. He was killed. We never heard from him again." I thought, I wish I'd mentioned the name Karl-Heinz, but I didn't. Well, that wasn't really me giving a message. That was second hand. The first time I ever gave a proper message was with Gordon. So Janet came into my room, and as she did, I saw her father-in-law. I looked after Gordon, who died of cancer, and I actually saw a picture of him in my head, carrying wearing a hat with antlers on. And I knew that I had to give it to Janet. I didn't know how to say it. So I said to Janet, I said, "I'll make up a story." I said, "Janet, every time I think of Gordon, I imagine you sitting on a wooden bench in a medieval hall under some antlers." And she said, "Oh, you've seen the photo, have you?" I said, "What photo?" "Didn't he show you the photo? It's really proud of it." And of course, I said, "What's this?" He said, "Well, he was an extra in a film. And he had to wear a hat with antlers on it and carry a shotgun. It was a comedy film." And actually, I hadn't seen it. He'd been far too ill to be showing off. But I said, "No, I hadn't seen it." She gave me a knowing look, but I didn't actually say anything. The very first proper message I gave directly to someone was to Pat. And so I looked after Tony, her husband, and he died. And as Pat came in, Tony was in the doorway, and he had these blankets under his arm. He was going like that, pointing to them. And now Pat was a spiritual, and said, "Look, Pat, we've got Tony here." And he's pointing to these blankets. And she said, "Ah, yes." She said, "These are the blankets which I knitted. We were going to give them to the hospital when he died. It's reminded me." And with that, I got a lot more information coming through. He showed me about when their courting days in the West End of London, the shops they used to go to, and the war cemetery they used to go to. She found it very comforting. This is stunning. This is Lucy. Lucy does not mind me using her real name. In fact, she wants me to tell people the story. So Lucy is lovely. This happened on the 6th of December 2004. That's very important. Lucy is a bright, bubbly lady. She came into my room, she was in tears, floods of tears. She couldn't stop crying. After 15 minutes, I couldn't work out why she was depressed. And she was saying, "Doctor, you've got to help me. I'm so depressed. I don't know why. You've got to do something to help me." With that, I thought, well, I'll prescribe an antidepressant. So I sort of typed into, pulled out a prescription for some citalopram, which is one of the new antidepressants. And I took it out of the printer. I felt a blow to the back of my head, heard a voice saying, "Ask me about my father." With that, I saw the ghostly outline of a man over her left shoulder. And I said, "Lucy, tell me about your dad." She stopped crying and said, "He was killed 38 years ago on the 8th of December by the IRA. Do you think that's why I'm depressed?" And that would be 2 days' time, anniversary. And I said, "Lucy, did he look like?" He described a man over her shoulder. She said, "Yes, how do you know?" I said, "Oh, I think I can see over your left shoulder." With that, she grabbed my arm, said, Doctor, thank you so much. You don't know what this means to me. So she said he was killed she thinks by the IRA. She was in service in Manchester at the time, and she was 16. She was on the boat back to Ireland, but it was too late. And he'd been speaking out against the IRA, even though they were Catholic, and they found his half feathered in a drain. She'd always felt that her dad was around her, but whenever she mentioned to her sister, they said, "Well, we're Catholic, we're not to believe that." Now I said this to her, and it validated the things. Not only that, once she said, "Well, now I know why I'm depressed, because I don't need your silly tablets. Thank you, doctor." She didn't have my room. And then told my receptionist, Carol, what I said to her. And I thought that was it. That was it. My career was now over. I really thought my career was over. That was it. It was out. The cat was out the back. That was it. You know, clapped me in the eyes. 4 weeks later, she comes back into my surgery. All smiles. What's wrong with us? I said, nothing. Why are you here then? She said, "I can't tell you a story." So she sits down with a smile on her face. She said, 2 weeks after I saw you, doctor, I was at my Irish social club. There's a creepy geezer who's got the second sight, not a very nice man, who's tapping at my coattail saying, Lucy, I've got a message for you. Come into this room, I'll give you this message. She's I'm not coming to the room with you. You want to give me a message, you can give it me here in the hall. She said, "Do you know there's a man over your shoulder? I think he's your father." She said, "Of course I do. My doctor told me that 2 weeks ago." She said, "You know what, that sure took the wind out of his sails." He saved the NHS prescription. Jade. So Jade's mother, Leslie, wasn't my patient actually, but Leslie was dying of breast cancer. And Jade knew I would, by this time I would have got around to Dr. Rubenstein, also known as Dr. Frankenstein, was talking to the spirit world. And she wondered if and her mother had actually felt the presence on the bed. And actually, Jade wanted me to go around and see who was coming to visit her, because Jade thought her mum was going to die, she didn't know who was going to visit her. So I went down there and just spoke to Leslie. And I actually got the impression that it was her deceased cousin. And I told her a few of my stories. Eventually, Leslie died, and Jade came to me and she said, "What are you picking up, Doc?" So I said, "Okay, I'll see what you pick up." And I said, "Well, your mum's showing me her last fairy collection." She said, "No, sorry, Doc. Jade's great. She's a very good recipient." She said, "No, I can't take it, sorry." 3 months later, she came up to see me. They'd moved a cabinet they're clearing out Mum's house, and they found a box behind the cabinet full of glass fairies. Now, no one had known that, not even Jade, so I couldn't have read that from mind. Thank you, fortune. So, Brian, the Beckinsale. Remember Beckinsale, Richard Beckinsale from Porridge? So, Brian Beckinsale was a distant relative of Richard Beckinsale. Lovely guy, big guy, lovely guy, full of great presence. He had to have an operation this time. The blood test results hadn't come back. There's only a big operation. They didn't know what it. He actually had leukemia no one knew. And he had no platelets, so which is your clotting factor in the blood. So he bled to death with no platelets. But a little operation. It was devastating. Lily came into my room. Devastating. I was devastated. I didn't know this happened. But suddenly, Ryan's there. Well, I couldn't see him, but it was like he was a big guy. He was there. When my father came, Lily was there. He was there. And he was like, "Hello, Doc. I'm back. It's all right. Don't worry, mate. Come on." And he's saying, "Look, tell her," I started giving me a message. "Tell her to sort the pond out." He described this little white plastic float. He said, "The garden pond needs sorting out. Tell her to get a move on with the shed." And I was like relaying this, and Linda saying, yeah, all right, yeah. She's writing it down. He's giving me a shot. This happened for a year. A year. Now, I mean, she said it was real. I said she may have just been grateful for me to be message. They call message grabs. You can grab anything. But two things happened that made me think this is really weird. Brian's there. I mean, I can see him, I can hear him. And he's saying, "Tell her about the sticks." So I said, "Linda, Brian wants me to tell her about the sticks." She goes, "Whoa!" I know what he means. I said, "What sticks?" She said, "I'll show you my shopping." She takes out a shopping list. At the top is garden cane. She said, "I've got just some garden cane from Tesco across the road." Oh, right, that's good. And there was the proof. She crossed it through. And the other time I was giving him some acupuncture for a back trouble. And then Brian is saying, tell her that I know about the Scottish relatives. So I said, Linda, Graham wants me to tell about Scottish relatives. And she laughed. She said, yeah, on Saturday, 2 relatives from Scotland turned up unannounced. So, that's right. She was so impressed with the message, as well as with the whole family, that she said, look, can I write to them? I read Fate and Fortune Maker. She said, can I write to them? So I said, yeah, if you want. And they did a nice spread about that. So that's how we got the Fate and Fortune Magazine. This is Paul. Paul died of lung cancer. He's a heavy smoker, which is his wife Sue. Sue came to see me, and I was aware of Paul. He was showing me he was in a boat, rowing, around in Cornwall. And she said, yeah, that's exactly what Paul would like to do. And he started giving me messages she could take. And then she said, Paul's son Daniel would like to hear from him. Can he come? Daniel's not my patient. So I said, sure. This is Daniel, this is my father. So Daniel came along and Paul started showing me this. I said, Daniel, I can see these like these little airport security type trays, but they're on some sort of conveyor belt. And they're whizzing through this massive conveyor belt. It's huge, I've never seen a conveyor belt. And he laughed, he said, yeah. I said, where'd you, is this where you work? I said, yeah. Where'd you work? I work at a cargo's fulfillment centre in Hampstead. It's the largest conveyor belt in Europe, actually. And he said the funny thing was is that he always told Paul about this, but of course he couldn't show him. He said, now Dad's showing me that he knows, he's been there in spirit. So I actually became Facebook friends through that, and they messaged me. And that's the message that Daniel said. I mean, it really helped him. He was cracking up. And that's what Arga said. So this stuff is really incredibly healing and therapeutic. So, that's pretty much all I've got to say to you. We end with the last card of the Arcana, the World. And we start with the Fool. The world is the end of cycle of life and showing what we've learned. And I've hopefully shared it with you. And some of you already bought it, but my books at the back if you want to read a lot more happening. All proceeds go to cancer charities from the book. Don't keep any of it myself. That more or less is it. I'm still struggling with this, by the way. It doesn't come easy, but that's my story. I hope you enjoy it.
We have time for questions. So, we have a lady here.
Ever get help with your diagnosis on patients in spirit?
Interesting enough, no. When this started happening, I started going to visit healing sanctuaries and things. I thought I was going to become a doctor, because you think you're going for healing. But actually, no, I was a bit steered right away from it. And I think it's because that would muddy the waters. I think had I got into that, then you're in quite difficult ground with General Medical Council. I mean, it's difficult enough giving messages, but starting using therapeutically. So therapeutically, breathing counselling, absolutely. And I will go on the record, and the BMA, there's a woman called Sarah Jarvis, and she goes on about doctors should not deal with spirituality. I firmly believe that we should be dealing with our patients' spirituality. I mean, not sort of preaching or anything, but you need to deal with the spiritual aspects of your patients' lives. And I think that this is very, very useful in breathing counselling. And I'm not the only one. There's a guy called Piero Calvi Paracetti. He's a Scottish doctor. Now, he's not a medium, but he's looked at the evidence of life after death. And he's convinced from a scientific perspective. And he's written a book called Love Knows No Death. He's worked with the Forever Family Foundation. It's a workbook for bereavement, which you then go through, looking at the evidence. And in fact, bearing in mind I'm still sceptical, I don't quite believe this story myself. I worked through it as well, because there's a bit of me which is like, hell, this can't be real. And I worked through Piero's workbook just to convince myself that the research is there, because it is there. So The only time was once I was giving acupuncture to this lady, and as I looked at her back, I saw this huge salmon on her back. And I said to her, I was at the space cadet, so I was giving this to her, I said, I can see this salmon on her back. Why am I seeing this? And she went bright red. She said, I'm a vegan, but last month I had salmon for supper. Absolutely. So that, yeah, but not the diagnosis. And not thinking, actually, I have patients who come give me here. I've got a guy called George, who said, he said, like, he's an ex-Barts hospital painter. He says, and he's 90 now, and he waits outside my door without an appointment. And he's very gentle guy. He says, the boss sent me, he wants me to give you some healing. He comes into my surgery, he says, he puts his hands on me and gives healing. I've got some lovely patients. I mean, they really respond. I thought that everybody thought like Western scientifically trained people, right? I thought everybody thought in terms of logic. I realised that people don't. It's a minority. My patients don't think like, no wonder they don't understand what the hell doctors are saying. They don't think like doctors. So I've crossed over, I've actually gone native. I mean, I can deal with both. I now see myself as someone who's travels two worlds. It's been a real eye-opener for me. I want to give this back into medicine. I'm still struggling with how one does that. But I actually think that's happening for me because I got the fellowship in 2014. I was well into this then, and my book had been published. And when I got the fellowship from the Royal College of GPs, as I left, I mean, I was the only one ever to get this. As I left this top floor at Euston, I said to Sarah, actually, I had this wall people. I said, do they know that I see dead people? She said, yes, they do, and they're very interested. So I ended up working at quite a high level, meeting doctors who are like professors and scientists, and they come to me and say, Ian, you've written this book about mediumship. And they're all interested. But they won't talk, they can't tell everybody that they're interested. They can't do it. I will just tell it as it is. What can they do? You know, I'm 63 now, I'm gone half time. I mean, I wasn't then, it was quite brave of me, I was 47, but now, sorry, you know. No, I'm not that brave. But you know, I'm prepared to go on the record. I think someone's got to, I think I've been given such weird experiences that if there's any truth to it, it's because I'm prepared to sort of talk about it. Otherwise, it's a waste, isn't it? Any other questions?
Questions?
Come on. So,
you talked about your training to become a medium.
yes.
And presumably, I probably get all the words wrong, but there was concentration, there was relaxation, and there were various other approaches that you had to go through. So when you actually had your own experiences later, do you think that you wouldn't have had those had you not undergone medium training?
I think I had to go through that. I think if we accept this as real, whatever real is, I don't know what reality is, then let's assume that I was placed on this path, or because we chose this path, higher level, I don't know. Then I think I had to go through, absolutely, because I learned an awful lot. Do I think I'm special? No. I think I'm just in a special position by being a doctor. I think we can all do this. I'm not a very good medium. I'm sure that mediums are much better than me. My unique selling point is the position I'm in. Everybody can kick football, not everybody can kick the football like David Beckham. So there's mediums like Gordon Smith, the David Beckham of mediumship. If only I could be like that, he's wonderful. But I obviously had something there from the off because I had these experiences before. Certainly when Felicity Space changed, looking back at it, Maurice Gross, who did the Enfield poltergeist investigation, you know, this guy with the hand massage, you know, that guy did it was a BBC programme recently. I went to his house and listened to the tape recordings of the Enfield poltergeist, and I told him what I'd witnessed. And I hadn't told him I was trained as a medium, and he said to me, I think you and your sister are under the mediums. When he said that, I said, oh, actually, Maurice, I am trained as a medium. So yeah, I think the energy was there. I think obviously. Can I tell you a little bit of time a story? Before I used to tell this story, I used to tell the story about the day I almost died. And I never put this in my book because at the time I didn't realise the significance. When I was 9, I had my tonsils out. And I bled from the tonsils across the bed. And I lost a lot of blood. And I had to take it back down to theatre. And I was really quite ill. I didn't need a blood transfusion. I couldn't be at death's door. But I was very unwell. I remember going under the anaesthetic. I had an experience which is now called a near experience. And I felt the same being extruded from my sense of being. It was like topping on glass. And it was winding down this black, like a garden polytunnel. It was black. And there was a little light on the end of the stalk. And I knew that actually I was that little light on the end of that stalk. And I used to tell that story. A lot of people told these stories. When these stories came along, I thought to tell it. It's only subsequently I realised that the near-death experience, a lot of people who have NDEs, they're called, often then come back with enhanced psychic awareness. So maybe it was that, I don't know. By the way, I didn't see a being of light, but I always remember being the age of 9 thinking, I'm that little spark on the end of that stalk. Yeah, and then I lost consciousness. That's not in my book. I just realised that. And the other thing, which isn't in my book, the date is quite important. This big family problem involved with me being disinherited, right? And I was actually disinherited from my parents. The will had been signed. I didn't know this until a couple of years ago. The will had been signed the 2nd of July 2003. And Keith came to see me on the 4th of July 2003. So it's only when you go, as more information comes out, you realise that there are reasons for this. So I've come to the conclusion that actually this is a we plan somehow, which means that life's a good tough job. Time isn't what we think. We are who we think we are. And if time isn't what we think, then space isn't what we think. Look, we don't know where we are, who we are, or when we are. We don't know who we are, we don't know what consciousness is, we don't know nature of time or space. Modification doesn't know who they are, where they are, when they are. I say they're demented. So we're all demented. We're all confused, which is a good place to be, I think. I think it's the only honest place to be.
Do most of your patients know that this is what you do in your other life?
Well, bearing in mind I've got that on my wall.
Right. Okay.
So sometimes they'll come in and they'll say, oh, I've had this experience and you think I'm mad. And I'll say, because they'll just sit here and there's I made a poster up, not a very common. And I'll say, stand up. Yeah. I'll say, turn around, look at the wall. And they go, what? Oh! You're in the wall, yes. I said, yeah, I know what you're going through. I've gone through that. So there's still a few don'ts. But yeah, pretty much it's now got out. My colleagues know. Yeah, a lot of people know. Then I was on Channel 4 as well. That was funny. I used to tell Felicity's face all the time. My wife was heartily sick of it. Heartily sick of it. She would say, I'm not going to hear this again. Then I told it on Channel 4. Then I got it in my book. Then it was on Coast to Coast. She said, you've told this whole bloody world. But it's one thing, I always get to this, you know the lips were distorted at the bottom. Well, Keith Hudson was an antiquarian book collector. He collected old books from spiritualism. And the old books talk about the build-up of ectoplasm. And as I was reading them, one of the things they noticed was that the forms build up often from the floor upwards. So that the top half of the figure is perfectly formed first, and the bottom isn't. Which is exactly what I saw. That the lips hadn't formed properly. That's what scared the bejesus out of my sister. These lips hadn't formed properly. Now, how could I have known that? Now, it hadn't. It was instant. This is, if you're a medium, you've been to transfiguration services, you know. Some mediums are up and back and they do transfiguration, and they say, oh yeah, you can be Chinese, I can see everybody in your feather. What I saw was in your face. It was unbelievable. There's no mistake. It wasn't like a little bit. This was in your face. Piercing blue eyes looking at me. Never forget that.
The lady at the front.
Yes.
I was really moved by what you were saying about living in Tottenham, and because that's where I grew up.
Which road?
Paynton.
Oh right. I was in St Andrew.
And I did the the experiments with the Ouija board as well. And I got a message that said it was from my father who died a couple of years before. And he said that I had to tell the family that Vicky, which was one of his brothers, was going to die of lung cancer before Christmas. And this was about September time. And very shortly after that, I had a message from my mother saying, "Oh, Uncle Albert's been diagnosed with lung cancer, and he did die before Christmas."
These difficult messages, aren't they? I mean, I'm not sure I'd want to give those out to people. I certainly wouldn't. But
It was the wrong
yeah.
brother,
Yeah.
but it was Uncle Vicky that rang my mother and told her about Uncle Albert. And I always wondered, why did I get that message wrong?
Wrong. Oh, I could wax for hours. I could bore you about technicality. I mean, this is where I get more scientific. We're talking about there's broadband and there's narrowband, right? We're dealing with narrowband communication here, right? The way do you remember the old days? They would call spirit guides controls, and they call the medium the instrument. Think of a player piano. You know the old piano, right? The notes are in the piano, and you've got a very simple scroll with punch holes in it. Okay. The piano can only play the notes that's in it. If we update that to current technology, it has a MIDI file, which is a text file. Very simple file, which you then send to a piano that plays, or a clarinet that plays, whatever it is, or a guitar. Very simple. Narrowband communication. Notes have to be in the piano. If you've got an MP3 file, there's no notes in it. The notes are in the file. You can play it on something that hasn't got notes in it. One requires broadband, one requires narrowband. Unfortunately, we're narrowband. Occasionally it's broadband, it's mostly narrowband. So it depends on you. So basically, they can only use what's in your mind. And if that's a little bit unclear, the message can get scrambled. So, and there's other technicalities as well, conditions, things going all over the place. That's how I see it.
I was quite freaked out.
Yeah. Oh, I'd be freaked out about that. I've had one message like that, which didn't like, was a lady. She always gave me a kiss when I saw her, and I knew I was going to see her the next day, and I knew she had a cold sore. And I didn't want to get a cold sore from her kiss. And I was lying there thinking, oh God, she's going to give me a kiss, give me a cold sore, what do I do? And I heard a voice saying, she won't come, she's going to die. She did. That was the only time I've heard that. I didn't say it to anybody. I don't really want to hear that sort of thing. The messages I get are, on the whole, they're comforting. I got one complaint. So that complaint I got. Saw a lady. I saw a knee. Comes into my room. I examine the knee. I give the appropriate treatment for her. She goes out. She then makes a complaint. Practice manager. The complaint was, I saw Dr. Rubenstein. They treated my knee. Yeah. My father-in-law died 2 weeks ago. He gave me a message from my father-in-law. I was lying awake at night, worrying about it, and she was complaining about I hadn't given her a message.
Nothing to do with that. It's a slightly different question. Mediumship, spirits, making contact with those who passed over. A lot of people think that the energies out there are changing at the moment. That we are heading towards something called ascension and so on. How does that tie in with that?
Every time she phones me up, I'm still in contact. And he gives these long rambling, he's a lovely guy, he's very psychic, but he deals with more than one sort of spirit. You get these long phone calls. How's it going, Keith? Oh, it's chaos on the astral planes. It's absolute chaos here. You know, it's all mixed up. That's what he says. Who am I to? I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on. As we know, everything's in change. I don't know. Ascension. I don't know. It's all the end times. I don't know. I think this is a school. I think we come here and we pass on. People, and it's like saying, I think nothing really changes. I mean, you stand outside my kids' old primary school, and you look at these things, these silly humans, what they do is fight and squabble. 100 years later, silly humans, they're just fighting and squabbling. They're still doing it. But they have to grow up and move on. Hopefully we grow up and move on. I think you need schools like this. I think, 100 years' time would be quite similar. It'll be different times. We'll be back in Europe, I don't know.
But do you think it will be the same here?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
100 years.
I hope not. I mean, I hope the aliens finally reveal themselves. Because the thing I'm more into in this is UFOs. My first love is UFOs and aliens. I have to mention aliens. Josh is smiling. My son's back, he's smiling. I have to mention Rubenstein's first law of paranormal, it always ends with aliens. Yeah? Yes? Doesn't it? Whichever door you go through, you always end up dealing with aliens. Remember that. Any other questions? Because I can go on for that. Oh, yes.
I've just got one, Ian. Thanks for the talk. It's a bit of a technical question. Most of the examples that you gave were, I suppose, English-speaking people, and you described in practice as being very multi-ethnic.
Yeah.
What happens when you're speaking to someone for whom English is not the first language, and perhaps the person that's passed their language, certainly not English?
Yeah.
At what level does that communication
I once had a message using a Romanian word. I can't remember what the bloody word is. In fact, we have a Romanian speaker at the back there, just his girlfriend, the advocate, she actually speaks Romanian. Have a Romanian patient, Mihaela, and I was transported to a mountainous rural scene, and I described this lady, and it was her grandmother. And her grandmother used a word that I can't remember, I don't remember what the word was, and the head said, that's the Romanian word, I know what it means. It's the only time I've ever done it. It's difficult because I'm not the most widely travelled of people, and as they can only use what's in my head, it's a little bit difficult for me.
So is the communication sort of transcending English? Are you communicating in another way, or?
Oh yeah, it's not. I tend to see rather than hear.
Right.
I've actually heard a voice on 2 occasions, with the keys and with Lucy. Mostly it's gut feeling and seeing, or just knowing something.
Thanks.
There must be occasions as a doctor when you see patients that have suffered as a result of violence or abuse or things like
Yes.
that. Do you get sort of messages for them, and what happens, say, if somebody who's been a murderer passes over and they can contact the family or something? Do you have any sort of bearing on that? Or
I have no experience of that. The stuff I get has been quite mundane. Although I have got a theory about people who are in domestic abuse. Lots of people who've been abused or come from abusive childhoods often end up being psychic. Did anyone notice that? I think that's something I've noticed, or I've had. I won't say I've been abused, but looking back, I realise I came from quite an old family, and I think my theory is that that often these people are like milk cows for energy. They get their auras punched, holes in the aura, metaphorically, so they can feed off their energy. And these holes, they use to feed other people. Often people are very giving people. As I say, the holes you should punch in also let the light in. So I think that's often how I describe that. But no, I don't. I've never had it. I never want to have it. No, it's all very mundane. Yes?
I'm really intrigued by what you might need or could share with us in a nutshell about aliens.
Aliens?
Your feelings on them, and also particularly, is it in any way interconnected with what's happening to you anyway?
Well, anybody who doesn't believe that they... Yeah, if you look at the UFO, I'm sorry. I mean, these UFOs is all wicked. Honestly, if you look at the evidence, Enrico Fermi, the Fermi paradox, is in the 1950s, a physicist, Nobel Prize physicist, he said, where are they then? What do you mean? So there's all these suns here. And they should be here by now because you can colonize the galaxy, even at sunlight speeds in about a million years, and the galaxy is billions of years, or where are they? Well, they're obviously here. It's probably us. They're just hiding, obviously. I think there's enough evidence. I mean, you look at case after case, Travis Walton, Calvin Parker, and Pascal Goodness, and all this. I think there's so much evidence. And also, anybody at Glastonbury heard of Nick Kyle's former president of the Scottish Society of Psychical Research, in the Skull Group. And in the Skull Circle, it's the physical mediumship circle in Norfolk. They have the most amazing stuff. And they were dealing with trans-dimensional, hyperdimensional alien entities that were coming through. Little mini flying saucer appeared. I've got a lot of time for Nick Kyle. He's a solid guy. He was a former deputy head. He and his wife Sarah were deputy heads of comprehensive schools in Scotland. They are solid people. And I went out for a meal with them, and they described to me what they saw. They had spirit lights whizzing through them, things dematerialising, mini flying saucers coming through. I mean, I just think this. We have to accept the fact that whatever they are, they're there. Yeah? The way I sometimes wonder if, in fact, we're a bit like we're stuck in our own life cycle. So imagine if you're a butterfly, we're caterpillars on a leaf, and then we change, become butterflies, and so we go from leaf-running insects to aerial-running creatures. So we think of them as separate existences. There may well be other beings that can hop from air to the leaf very easily, like birds. So what we call the afterlife, or this life, there may be beings that live quite comfortably within the two. We just have difference in perspective. No, I like it. A lot of time.
Well, listen, I think we'll draw to a close there. That was absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure you'd all like to join me in thanking Ian.
The information where unknown forces strike the edge of ecology.